Leaves of Grass, Song of Myself, I Sing the Body Electric, Oh Captain, My Captain. All penned by Walt Whitman, one of the greatest writers in American history. Born in Long Island, longtime Brooklyn resident, New Yorkers feel a definitive sense of pride to have had him once amongst our midst. It has been 200 years since his birth. And to mark that milestone, Walt Whitman is being celebrated in an exhibit at the New York Public Library. Here with details about both the exhibit and the life of the Bard of Brooklyn is Michael Inman, curator of Rare Books. Michael, nice to have you here with us.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
What is it, do you think, about today that can make him even more relevant to us?
Well, I think it's no secret that right now our country is divided in many ways, and not only our country, but you see this around the globe. And Whitman, during his own time, sought to write a volume of poems, Leaves of Grass, that would encompass the full range of human experience, certainly of the American experience, to give voice to and to celebrate the values of the individual, of individualism, and also the values of the collective. And I think right now that goal of his continues to speak to us across the divide of time.
The exhibit is broken down basically into 5 components. And just give us a quick sentence or two explaining what it's going to be. So you start off with what makes sense, his formative years.
Yes. So this first section of the exhibition really traces his development as a poet, really from the time of his birth in 1819 up until that moment when Leaves of Grass is first published in July 1855. So you will, as you go through the exhibition, you will see certain geographic locations that influenced his development, that played a role in his shaping his worldview. The 3 primary ones being rural Long Island, where he was born, Brooklyn, where he spent 27 of his 72 years living there, and then Manhattan, which he loved greatly. And then as well, you'll see literary works that certainly influenced his development as a poet, the development of his poetics, which were quite groundbreaking in many ways. He's often called the father of free verse. The writing about the urban experience, for example, and the inventive use of language and rhythm and so forth. You find all of these elements in Whitman's poetry.
Yeah. One of the things I think was striking, you mentioned 1855 Leaves of Grass is not the rampaging success he wanted. It was actually the opposite. Mm-hmm. And what helped to sort of propel him, the story is how he loses his job.
Right.
And that the loss of his job in some ways becomes a springboard. Just give me a quick version of that.
Yeah, well, in the spring of 1865, he landed a job in the Department of Interior as a clerk. And in late June of 1865, the then Secretary of the Interior, a man named James Harlan, was walking around, presumably after hours, and spied a copy of Leaves of Grass, either in Walt Whitman's desk drawer or laying on top of Whitman's desk. Whitman, during his off hours, and probably even during work hours, was constantly revising the poem and was writing annotations into this volume. Harlan picks up the book and begins leafing through it and was just completely aghast at what he saw. And the next day, he sent a termination letter to Whitman, a very tersely worded one, saying your services are dispensed with as of this moment. We actually have in the New York Public Library not only that volume, which was the 3rd edition, Whitman's copy of it, the 1860 edition, called the Blue Book, because of its blue covers, which has all those annotations in it, but also have the termination letter as well, sitting right side by side.
That's wonderful.
Which these are 2 sort of holy grails of American literature, or literary history. In the wake of this, several of Whitman's closest friends rushed to his defense. Whitman lands another job very quickly in the government, in another department. But several of his friends write books extolling Whitman's value as a poet, saying essentially that he's the bard of democracy. He's a very morally chaste figure who has been, horribly ignored by the American public. It sort of begins painting this picture of this sort of sage, benevolent figure. And one of the books that was written in his defense was called The Good Gray Poet. Mm-hmm. That title soon becomes his nickname, and Whitman really tries to live up to this image of this sort of bearded sage figure of American democracy. And really, to this day, that is how we think of Whitman when we
the
do
great
think
poet,
of it.
right?
Yeah, that sort of this bearded sage
And
figure.
this comes from him getting fired.
He becomes the Walt Whitman we know.
That's one of the many, many great stories.
Right. There are many to
I
be
know.
told and that are told in this exhibition, but certainly that's a very important one.
Michael, I want to thank you for spending some time. It is a
Oh.
great exhibit, and I'm sure people will thoroughly enjoy it when they.
Well, I hope so, and I hope everyone will come see it.
We will. Thank you again for
Thank
spending
you.
some time with us. And a reminder for you folks, for more information on the New York Public Library's exhibit on Walt Whitman, you can visit us at metrofocus.org.